Hello, I'm Bruce Gernon. Electronic fog. It's not a concept. It's a phenomenon that is profoundly shaping my life. Discovering that I had survived something now called the Bermuda Triangle was incredibly exciting. And discovering 30 years later how electronic fog works was equally thrilling. Lately, with all the conspiracy theories, many claim the mystery of the Bermuda Triangle has been solved, asserting that nothing abnormal occurs there and that all disappearances are naturally occurring. Well, I agree that it is a naturally occurring phenomenon that causes the disappearances, and I am living proof that electronic fog and time tunnels are real. Now let's delve into the video of the brief history of the discovery of electronic fog. This moving map shows where I took off from Andros Island and went over the Great Bahamas Bank and was caught in this circular time storm. And I ended up going direct to Miami instead of Bimini, and then I had to go way out west over the Everglades and then back to my destination of Palm Beach International Airport. So this was an incredible flight that I made in 1970, and the flight was closer to 240 miles or more instead of the normal 210 miles. So it should have taken me the normal time, which would be like an hour and a half, maybe an hour and 20 minutes, but it only took 47 minutes, and that was strange. So this is what it forced me to go through this tunnel, and when I came out, this is where the electronic fog that's created inside the tunnel attached itself to the airplane. This graphic illustration shows how the electronic fog is attaching to the aircraft. Apparently, the electronic fog is created inside the tunnel, and then when the plane exited, it attached itself to the plane. I was in this fog for 3 minutes, and somehow it electronically dissipated with these stripes all around the airplane, and I ended up over Miami Beach, which was 100 miles away. So I didn't quite understand what had happened at that point, and something really strange happened right when I was over Miami Beach. I heard this voice, and it was a powerful voice, and it wasn't my own voice within me. I've never heard a voice quite like it before, and it said to me that I should always remember what I had just experienced. And so I've remembered that all these years, and I have memorized it completely, so I understand exactly what it looked like that I flew through. And I'm trying to still figure it out, but it's strange because was it an angel that talked to me, or was it an alien? I don't know. It seems like it was one or the other. And if it was an alien, this is something that I saw only a month later, and it was on the same exact flight path that I had just been on. And it was at night though, but it looked a lot like this flying saucer, and I had a close encounter of the first kind with it. And this is just a kind of a funny thing about an angel being inside the tunnel. I do feel like maybe I was guided by an angel through that whole system of the circular time storm. And I feel lucky to get out of it. And these were the three of us that were in the Bonanza. That's another old Bonanza behind us. That's my dad and our business associate and good friend, Chuck Lafayette. And he also experienced, it became nauseous during the flight, and my dad went into a state of panic while we were in the electronic fog. This fog can affect humanity. It was 15 months after I had made this flight that I was watching late night TV on the Dick Cavett show, where I saw this scientist named Ivan Sanderson, and he had written this book about underwater aliens. So he knew a lot about UFOs. And he made the comment that in the area of the Bahamas, there's a strange thing going on that has something to do with space and time. And when he said that, I realized that that was the answer. It was like a revolution. I realized that time was the key to this mystery. And this scientist had explained to me where the area was that this happened, and that's where it happened to me. So it was really a big deal because I had been quiet about this for those 15 months because I didn't know how to explain to anybody what I had experienced. And now I knew what it was. I had experienced a space-time warp. This is a photo of Owen Gasaway. He was the owner and operator of Lantana Airport, and he was my mentor, and he's the one that sold us the Bonanza back in 1970. And he was considered to be a genius, and he really knew a lot about aviation. So he was the first one that I told the story to about what I experienced. And my dad was with me when we told him, and there were some other pilots hanging around in the flight base operations building, and I told everybody the story, and Owen was the first one to come up and say that I had experienced vertigo. And that shook me up quite a bit. And I said to him, well, even my dad and Chuck also had it? He said, well, yeah, all three of you could get it. I said, well, I didn't think so, but that's the first time I ever disagreed with Owen. But anyway, I wasn't too happy about what Owen had told us. After Owen Gasaway disappointed me, I talked to my physics professor that I was studying in college with, and I told him the story, and he was quite interested in it. So he had arranged a meeting for me to meet with him and the head of the physics department at the university. And we had a discussion, and both of them believed that it actually happened to me, and I had a space-time warp. So that was exciting, and that encouraged me a great deal to continue my studies. So one of them thought that it was UFOs, and the head of the department, he said he helped to create the discovery of a tornado. And this is similar to that, he said, and so he definitely believed what I had done. So that was really encouraging. In 1976, the Palm Beach Post wrote this article about me, and this was the first time my story became public. And that was my daughter. She was even born in the same year, and they took a photo of the two of us looking at one of my drawings of the vortex tunnel. And here's a picture of her almost 40 years later when I had this little seaplane, and her and I used to fly it quite often. This is a photo of Dr. Manson Valentine, and next to him is the famous Bimini Road that he was given credit for helping to discover. And he helped to write a book with Charles Berlitz, and the book became a bestseller, and the term Bermuda Triangle was coined by Berlitz. And Dr. Valentine and I became friends, and he was the first real scientist to back up what I had experienced, and he was already familiar with the vortex tunnel. And I had a psychic experience with him. I was watching television, and he was from Miami, and he was on a local television show, and it was a news show, and they said he was one of the he was like one of the main scientists for the discovery of the Bermuda Triangle. And while I was watching, I had this vision of him and me and our wives at some restaurant, and we were dining for dinner together, and it was right on the shores of what looked like Biscayne Bay, and he was talking to me about what I had discovered, and so I called him, and he got back with me, and he said, I would like to have you guys over and we could go to dinner. And then I realized, wow, this vision might come true. And sure as heck, after I met with him for an incredible meeting, I told him what I experienced, and then we went to dinner, and it was exactly what I envisioned, a restaurant right on the shores of Biscayne Bay. This is a book that came out in 1996. It was a series of books by Time Life, and it was called Mysteries of the Unknown. And they had an article in it about me and a 2-page spread of artist rendering of the time tunnel that I flew through. So that was another public display of my story, and so it started to get even more known all around the world. It's 30 years later, and my mentor, Owen Gastonway, comes up to me at Lantana Airport, where I just happened to be that day because I hadn't seen him in a long time, and he is acting kind of excited, and he says to me, "Hey, I've got an idea about your theories." And I go, "Wow, what is it?" And so he tells me that my electronic fog could be the same or similar to St. Elmo's fire. And that's what we're looking at right now, St. Elmo's fire, and a form of it. It has different forms, and this is an actual video of one of the forms that it can form on the windshield. He said that it formed on his propeller while he was flying, and it's different than any known form of electricity because it attaches to the airplane, and that's what the same thing is with electronic fog. It attaches to the airplane. So that was quite genius of Owen to come up with that theory, and he is correct. It is similar to St. Elmo's fire. Now, Owen Gasaway also told me to connect this man, Walt Houghton. And he was the assistant director of Broward County, Florida Aviation Department and a professor of aviation of Broward Community College. And I became friends with him after contacting him and telling him that Owen knew me, and he was interested in my story, and he told me that I should contact Martin Caden. And one of the things he did was to comment in my first book, The Fog. And he made a comment that he thought that the disappearance of Flight 19 was related to what I experienced. And he also said that I had a plausible solution because there have been many documented cases of knowledgeable and experienced pilots encountering electromagnetic disturbances. And another thing that he mentioned was the lines of Nazca, the mysterious Nazca lines. Because he was so interested in them, he believed that Maria Ricci, who discovered the Nazca lines, was similar to my discovery of electronic fog. And years later, I found an article about Maria, and it said that she had gone on a ship from Germany, where she was born, and when she was a young lady, she took the cruise ship to Peru. And on the way, she encountered a rainbow that she said was vertical instead of horizontal, and the ship actually went right through the rainbow. And it was so exhilarating that she thought that she was going to discover something in Peru. And she did, of course, discover the Nazca lines, and she spent her rest of her life researching it. And so that's similar to something I did 2 weeks before I flew through this vortex tunnel. I was flying back from work with my dad, and there were rainbows all around us that day with multiple thunderstorms. And on the way, one of the rainbows was vertical, and it was circular. And we ended up flying right through it, and it was incredibly amazing, colorful, and exhilarating. And I'll never forget it. But I didn't think I was going to discover anything after that, but I did discover the vortex tunnel and then electronic fog. Walt Hoden told me to contact Martin Caden because he was a famous author, and he said that maybe there's some information in some of his books that will help you for your research. And so I wasn't able to contact him, but I did research his books over and over. And then there was a story of an encounter that he had that he wrote about several times. And it was on a flight back from Bermuda. He was coming into Jacksonville, Florida. But when he got near Bermuda, this strange fog encountered him, and he had no idea that it was attached to him, but it was very strange. So he wrote about it in great detail, trying to explain what it's like and how all his instruments went off and the compass was rotating, and there was a strange hole below him that he could see the ocean below, and another hole above him that he could see the sky, but he couldn't get away from the fog. He went down low. Didn't make any difference. It went up high, still attached to him, but he didn't know that. And then when they reached Jacksonville, it mysteriously disappeared. So I was researching his book, and when I read that he said it was like flying through a milk bottle, and that's when it hit me. That's when I realized he wasn't flying through the milk bottle. He was flying with it. And that's how this electronic fog works. So that was in the year 2000, 30 years later, after trying to understand how I got from 100 miles east of Miami to Miami Beach in only 3 minutes was, and I couldn't see anything of the Bahamas, Bimini Islands. I should have been able to see them, but I never saw them. And that was because this fog was attached to me. And that's why when I reached Miami, it mysteriously detached from me. Because when I looked back after I got out of the fog, expecting to see a big fog bank, there wasn't any fog bank. It was clear skies. So that was another revelation in my lifetime of research of the Bermuda Triangle and the electronic fog. This is my wife Lynn and I and our second Bonanza getting ready to fly down to the Keys, where we lived in an island called Tavernier, in an airport called Taverniera. And it was 1996 when we had this experience, and Lynn was with me. And we were flying a Cessna Centurion. And when we got over the Everglades, this fog attached to us, but there was a hole right underneath us. And we kept going, right, and seeing the background there is Homestead Air Force Base. And I had a hunch if we could get away from this fog and go over the ocean, it would dissipate electronically, and it did. The hole got bigger and bigger, but then it left this strange ring around our airplane, and the ring stayed with us all the way for another almost 100 miles to go to our house in Wellington in Palm Beach County. These thunderstorms are over the northern Everglades, and the photo on the left was taken a minute after the photo on the right, and you can see how the tunnels form between the thunderstorm cells. And this is in the southern Everglades, in a photo that we captured of another thunderstorm that had the vortex tunnels in it. And this one was unusual in that it turned square just before it collapsed. And we're trying to get this analyzed to see if it's a good photo or not. This next series of still photos shows you what is known as thumbnails on YouTube. They are cover shots of a video or an interview of me. Different companies from all around the world have made them without my permission because it's not required on YouTube. Some are good, some are okay, but none has ever gotten the story quite correct. Some have made many views, and I'll be showing you shortly one that has had over 28 million views. This is Dr. Arthur C. Clarke, and he was a scientist, and in the mid-90s he had a TV series called Mysterious Universe, and he contacted us for a video that you're about to see that we made in the Florida Keys in a Tavanero Airport in our Cessna Centurion. And I had another vision with this one, with him. And that was back in 1993 or so. And in this vision, I could see a person that was Dr. Clarke, but I didn't know him at that time. I thought it may have been Dr. Valentine, but it didn't quite look like Dr. Valentine. So in the vision, there was a TV show that he produced, and he was introducing me to the world on television for the first time. And I was pretty amazed to see this video, so I didn't forget it. But then the years went by, 2 years went by, and then I got a phone call from England, and they said that Arthur C. Clarke wants me to be on one of his TV shows. And I told them that I've been waiting for them to call. And they didn't know what I was talking about, but I knew that it was the vision that I had. And so he made this series of shows, and I'm playing a major role on this one that you're about to see.
Since 1945, over 100 ships and planes are said to have vanished there, not only without trace, but often in mysterious circumstances.
Businessman Bruce Gernon commutes all over Florida in his private plane. There's one flight he'll never forget.
I encountered this cloud out over the Bahama Bank, and I saw this tremendous buildup of electricity inside it. The deeper I got, the more electricity I could see, and they weren't lightning bolts, they were just bright, pure white flashes.
Had a lot of flights in that area, but this experience I'll never forget. Well, it started 100 miles east of Miami when I found myself surrounded by this strange storm. Time started changing instantly. And I believe I actually got to see the fabric of time itself. It was like watch the tunnel rotate. When I reached the other end, the tunnel collapsed. And I reached the shoreline of Miami Beach. It only took 3 minutes and 20 seconds to fly 100 miles.
Where are you?
Well, I should be 90 miles east of Miami.
Okay.
Contacted Miami Flight Center, and then the radar controller comes back on the radio, and he got an airplane directly over Miami Beach. And then I looked down, and yeah, it's Miami Beach.
So you were 80 miles further along in your flight than you should have been.
That's right. So when we landed, I checked my watch, and it was a flight of only 47 minutes, and wow, that didn't make sense. I had made that flight dozens of times before, and it always had taken at least an hour and 20 minutes.
Wow. According to his calculations, the tunnel transported him 90 miles in 3 minutes and 20 seconds.
The Bahamas, December 4th, 1970. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, pilot Bruce Gernon departs from Andros Island, bound for Palm Beach, Florida, just north of Miami.
Gernon, his father, and a business associate were flying from the Bahamas to Florida. when Gernon reported seeing a strange cloud directly out in front of their plane. Then, as he approached, Gernon claims the cloud formed a donut-shaped hole, or vortex.
The tunnel was huge at first, but then it started getting smaller rapidly. And when I penetrated into the tunnel, an incredible thing happened. These lines instantly formed. It was like looking down a rifle barrel because the lines were swirling slowly counterclockwise. I encountered some intense electricity. There were like flashes going on and off. And all I could see was this strange, grayish, yellowish fog. I call it electronic fog. I noticed that my instruments were malfunctioning, and at the same time, I'm feeling this unbelievable sensation.
On December the 4th, 1970, almost 25 years to the day after the disappearance of Flight 19, a pilot by the name of Bruce Gernon was in an aircraft flying between Andros Island and the island of Bimini when he had an absolute incredible experience.
The controls on his plane also went crazy. He felt in the end that somehow he had been in the Bermuda Triangle when it was activated. Since that time, researchers have been trying to find out exactly what happened during that flight.
That's where my experience in 1970 began. I am the only living person that has flown through the heart of it and then exited what I call a time tunnel vortex and survived.
So have you ever retraced your flight?
I've never been on the exact flight path that I was when I had this event. And that's what I'd like to take you through today, the exact flight path.
Into the Bermuda Triangle, and this isn't a one-way flight, is it?
No, sir. We'll be back.
Okay, I'm ready.
So Bruce, it was 1970, and you were flying out of Andros. Who was with you on this flight?
My dad and our business partner was with us, and it was a routine flight, but this is the area where I took off and started my ascent. I was at 1,000 feet, just like we are right now. I started climbing straight out over that bank right there. There it is.
Got it? Okay.
I don't know, it looks kind of eerie here.
You've just watched one of my favorite videos that I did for the History Channel. And the narrator, well-known narrator named David Childers was the star of the show. And what I did was I flew him from South Florida to the Bahamas, and then we retraced the exact path that I had taken when I traveled through the Vortex Tunnel. And what was interesting was when we got to Andros, that's when we prepared to enter the flight path. And so we were at 1,000 feet, and we were over the western shore of Andros. And then we started to ascend. And this is where I told Childress that this is where I first spotted the lenticular-shaped cloud that spread out at a phenomenal rate when I climbed over it. And I've been over this area many times, going back and forth from Andros, and it's one of the most remote areas in the whole area. There's no civilization for at least 30 or 40 miles, and it's over the Great Bahama Bank. It's about 15 feet deep, and you can see these white lines in this still shot that we grabbed here. And these white blotches are known as whitewater, and they're not fish. A lot of people think they're fish feeding. They're not. Nobody really knows what they are. They ooze out of the bottom of the ocean there. And Dr. Valentine tested them once to the water, and he said there was a lot of lithium in the water. So that's one of the mysteries of Andros Island. There's something going on right in this one area right here. And so when we got over it, I had prepared Childress for the situation, and all of a sudden the plane started bumping. And it was kind of funny because David Childress, he actually thought he was going to die. That's what he said. Am I going to die? And they cut that out of the video. He probably had him cut it out. But try to listen to him real close when we get over the bumps, and you'll see what happens. It was pretty exciting.
Much around, is there? Very remote area of the Bahama Bank.
Well, what was that? Did you feel that?
There it is, right there.
That was the weird.
Oh, did you catch that?
Something we should maybe. Hey, it's out of control. It's okay, guys. We just hit a rough spot. We just got a little turbulence here.
It's turbulence.
How about that? Yeah, wow. I have to admit, I'm actually glad that we didn't vanish.
That's right in this exact area here where it did that.
Oh, a premonition, maybe.
Kind of, yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right, so did you think that anything strange was going to happen to you that day?
No, I had no premonitions, but this strange cloud formed right in front of us, and it was like a lenticular shape.
The cloud was huge, reaching at least 40,000 feet. Bruce and his dad were racking their brain, trying to figure out how to escape from this situation, but every solution they brought up was blocked by a more bigger problem. For instance, they couldn't go under the cloud or above it because the cloud looked like it emanated directly from the ocean. They couldn't go around the cloud. It would take them off their flight path greatly, and it may be a problem in terms of not having enough fuel to reach their destination. The only viable option against all sound judgment and teachings both pilots had was to go into the eye of the tiger.
Still elude us. Is the Bermuda Triangle a natural anomaly? Or does it hold secrets that transcend our current understanding of the world? Whatever the truth may be, Gernon's story is a testament to the enduring allure and profound mystery.
The only way to escape the inside of the storm, when I entered the tunnel, these strange lines instantly formed.
This is a rendition by the History Channel of what it might look like when an airplane is caught by the electronic fog. It's the best rendition that anyone's done so far, and it shows that this strange fog flies along with the airplane, and it disorients the pilot and affects his instruments and makes it very difficult to navigate and even control the airplane. So the History Channel did a really good job of animating just what it might look like.
Suddenly, the frequency counter comes alive.
Hey, Bruce? Yeah? I'm getting frequencies of 652. Look at this. Look at that. We're going through a cloud right now. Holy
Jet 814, affirmative 12000, 280 knots.
We're bouncing off the scale.
652 megahertz is extremely high. Normal is closer to just 6 or 10 megahertz. Then, the tri-field meter begins to peak.
Okay, well, these readings are really kind of impressive. They're sporadic. There isn't like a whole lot of explanation here of why the magnetic meter will go pinning itself.
Perez realizes something even more astonishing.
Stephen Hawking has said that yes, time travel is possible, but not practical.
40 years ago, I wrote a letter to the great physicist Stephen Hawking and explained to him in detail what I had experienced in the Bermuda Triangle. And his aide got back to me and told me that he was too busy and restricted, not able to reply to me. So then my daughter Keely decided she might be able to convince him, so she wrote him a letter. And then he did get back with me. And he sent me some information about time travel and that it is possible, and that he did believe that I had a space warp time experience. And he gave me one warning though. He told me not to tell people that I traveled through time or even had a space-time warp, because they would think I was wacky, he said. So I tried to restrict myself from saying traveling through time, but I can't help myself. I still say it, and I still believe it. But he was very helpful. I was on almost a half dozen TV documentaries with Michio Kaku over the years, and he never would comment on what I experienced. And so I had some producers once ask him to comment on it, and he said no comment. So I thought, well, maybe that meant he wasn't sure of what I did. But then on the last video we were on together, he finally did comment on me, and he started off saying that I was not lying, so I was happy to hear that. But then he went on to say that I had this experience, but it was all in my mind. That's why I believed it. It was a form of time compression that many people have experienced before, where time seems to just fly. But I wasn't too happy about that. And then now, as you can see from his latest comment, is he's saying that we cannot rule out time travel. So apparently he's changed his mind. So I'm happy to hear that. As you can see, Michio now claims that time travel now is only an engineering problem. And he's displayed one of these wormholes showing a rocket ship about to enter one. Well, I'm not saying I went through a wormhole. I'm saying I went through something that appears to be similar to a wormhole, and I call it a thunderstorm vortex tunnel, or a time storm. You may have noticed electronic fog is an extremely rare phenomenon. It has evaded our history of its power to affect time for centuries. But now, with technology advancing so rapidly, we may be on the verge of discovering how the use of this energy will travel us through time. Discoveries in quantum mechanics appear to be related to electronic fog. Quantum entanglement appears to defy time and space itself, because when two particles become linked, what happens to one instantly affects the other, no matter how far apart they are. When I wrote this book, I had young readers like you in mind. You have contacted me more than anyone else, and I have detailed this for your curious minds because I believe you will be the ones to solve one of the world's greatest mysteries. What causes the strange disappearances? The answers are out there waiting for your brilliant minds to connect the dots. Keep exploring the wonders of quantum physics and the enigma of electronic fog. The future of discovery rests with you. Thank you for your incredible curiosity. Think about that, a force so subtle yet with such profound potential, hidden in plain sight. What else might we be missing? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this has sparked your curiosity, be sure to like and subscribe for more mind-bending explorations. Thanks for watching our video, and please hit the subscribe button. The latest book, called Bermuda Triangle Survivor, is available on Amazon.